to The Audacity, the podcast by women for women, and anyone else brave enough willing to listen. We love all of you for being here, and we want to give a special shout out to our newest TVIP member, Anya Temilolua. Welcome, Anya. Woo!
Welcome, Anya.
We have some very special treats for y'all today, including our very first VIP member tea time, so stay tuned for that. Our main discussion today is going to be on starter wives, or something else that goes by build a man up and he will leave. It's a topic that we have referred to many times on the show, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it today. Even though there is so much to say about it, I'm sure we won't cover all of it. And we have some very special treats for y'all today, including our very first VIP member tea time, so stay tuned for that. But ladies, what is the tea this week?
The stocks are crashing and Elon is crashing out on Twitter. Have y'all seen this mess?
Tell us, Gwen.
Hold on, I got to pull up on my handy dandy iPad. So Senator Mark Kelly tweeted out, just left Ukraine. What I saw proved to me we can't give up on the Ukrainian people. Everyone wants this war to end, but any agreement has to protect Ukraine's security and can't be a giveaway to Putin. Let me tell you about my trip and why it's important we stand with Ukraine. And Elon tweets back, "You're a traitor," to our senator.
Oh my God.
And he actually quote tweeted him back and said, "Traitor, Elon, if you don't understand that defending freedom is a basic tenet of what makes America great and keeps us safe, maybe you should leave it to those of us who do." Sick burn.
I love that.
I know, right?
Yeah, if anyone's a traitor, it's the people capitulating to Putin. Like, I don't understand. We've always known that this is a bad man. I don't understand why we are all of a sudden folding and just letting him have control of, I mean, regardless of how you feel about Ukraine, I think it is going to be a huge step for him moving forward with reviving the USSR, which has always been Putin's goal. I don't think a lot of people understand that this goes really far back for him, and he is actually really hurt that the USSR was ever broken up, and it's been like a personal pet project of his to get back to that and to make Russia a powerful empire again. But none of this is about freedom. None of this is about freedom for Putin or Elon. Elon doesn't care about freedom either, because
Elon only cares about Elon.
I was going to say,
true.
we all know where he comes from, Emerald Money, and we know what kind of labor practices he uses to get lithium for his Tesla batteries. So I don't think he gives a shit about freedom, to be fair.
And speaking of Tesla, Donald Trump apparently went out and got one, which Gwen was saying we're pretty sure is for optics. Because I don't even think he can fit it. Can he fit in a Tesla? Those cars are tiny. Like the ones I see.
He's got little tiny baby hands though.
Really? I just can't
I am laughing at the mental image of him trying to tumble out of one of those.
Exactly. Either getting in or getting out is going to be a challenge. But does Donald Trump even drive?
No,
he's got little drivers for him.
So like, what's the point?
I've never seen him. Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't think I've ever seen him exit out the driver's side of a car ever.
Yeah, it sounds like optics. I don't know the whole story, but
It's definitely optics.
I'm mad because I thought that he was getting sick of Elon, but apparently not. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
I think are have this probably like deal of mutual destruction where Elon's got dirt on Trump, Trump's got dirt on Elon. So if either of them were to break up, like I guess
agree.
they can, because somebody's going to leak something. So it's actually up to our foreign adversaries to want to like leak the actual Epstein files, because I'm pretty sure the shit that we got is all redacted and it's got all these like censor bars on it that tells you like all the real shit. So I think some countries have actually threatened to do that. Like they're going to actually release it. I'm like, please do it. Please do it.
I still have a theory that Epstein is not deceased. Don't ask why. The only reason why I could be totally wrong by that, of course. But also, too, did he ever have a funeral or a memorial or anything? It was like they said, oh, he died, and that was the end of it. Like, nobody thought about, like, did anybody go to...
A dead pedophile's a good pedophile.
But what if he's not dead?
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, he had it, but I
thought that was fishy, too.
do know for certain, if he is, he did not kill himself. I don't care what nobody say.
That's for sure.
China, if you're listening.
Yeah,
Files, if you have them. China hackers.
Please.
Yeah, the reason they won't release them is because all of them are on it. It doesn't matter, Democrats, Republicans.
I
That's why
agree.
they're so united on,
I
you
agree.
guys are only getting X amount of information because we can't
Even with the Diddy
compromise
parties,
ourselves.
even with the Diddy parties,
Oh my
they're
God, yeah.
protecting a lot of
Oh
celebrities.
yeah.
It's a lot of them that got a lot to lose, and they're not. It's so obvious too.
And the rich are always gonna stick beside each other. The rich
Mhm.
and men.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it might
So
not even
true.
just be just the celebrities. Like it'll be people who are on top of that food chain who are like
Mhm.
executive producers and like
Yeah,
these CEOs of these like major motion picture
Definitely.
companies and things like that. So definitely protecting them.
Yeah, where it wouldn't benefit them to have stuff like that come out about their
absolutely.
darlings or
Yep,
whatever.
you are absolutely
Mhm.
correct.
Yeah.
The record
yeah.
labels and
Yep.
yeah, totally agree.
And speaking of the rich are always going to stick together, my tea for this week is that, well, it's kind of piggybacking off of sovereigns, that I think Trump is using this Tesla thing as a jumping off point for bailing Musk out and for basically making it so that, like, he's going to be like, yeah, these are great cars. And I think that everybody in
Right.
the federal government should have one. This is going to be the new official vehicle of the US. In fact, he's trying to come out and make it illegal to boycott Tesla, which is crazy in a capitalist, like in a
What?
capitalist country, because you can't tell
Mhm.
people what to buy.
So basically, people just can't say, I'm boycotting Tesla.
No.
We just got to keep quiet about it. Just don't buy
Yeah,
a Tesla.
just don't
Oh,
buy
they
it.
disappeared this one guy
Like, what
who
the fuck?
protested for Palestine, and now they literally just took him in the middle of the night. He has like an
Mhm.
8 months pregnant wife, and he's like
Mhm.
in probably like Guantanamo by now.
What?
Yes.
And
I
yeah,
think they transferred him to Louisiana actually because he was what if we're talking about the same person, he was initially arrested in New York and then the
I think
judge
it
like
was Mahmoud.
blocked.
Wait,
Yes,
who y'all
yes.
talking about? I missed.
Yes. So he was protesting the war in Palestine and he
Mhm.
was saying that like the college campus that he was at should divest from Israel or whatever because otherwise they're like supporting the war.
Mhm.
And he was basically just protesting like our First Amendment rights or whatever.
Mhm.
And Trump was like, "Oh, we're going to deport him back." But then they're not deporting him, they're keeping him here. And then a judge in New York blocked that and was like, "No, you're actually infringing on his First Amendment rights." And so they're now transferring him to Louisiana because they're hoping that this certain judge there will be more favorable to their
Oh, wow.
stance, which is that he should be punished and deported and treated like a
Mhm.
criminal, which is crazy. But they're not beyond that. I mean, Trump says that he will label violence against Tesla dealerships as domestic terrorism, which he will also deport you for. He also said that left lunatics, as they often do, are trying to illegally and collusively boycott Tesla, which is crazy because it's not illegal to boycott something. It's not illegal to not buy goods and services in a capitalist country. That's fucking crazy.
Whatever deal him and Elon made before he was elected, he has a dog in the fight. So he
Mhm.
has to make sure. And if he doesn't come through with whatever he promised Elon, then who knows what's going to happen? Some shit is going to blow over. That's what I think. Because why are you doing all of this? If you really think about it, like, what do you have to gain? So
Yeah, it's
I
making
think
him
he's
look like a
covering-
lap dog.
Yes, he's
Yeah.
either a lap dog or they're both in cahoots on something. You deliver on your end, and I'm going to deliver on my end.
They're
And
definitely
I don't
like
know, and I don't
colluding
know
on some
what, and I
shit.
don't know what they talked about, but it's very obvious that he's trying to, or he probably made a promise to Elon where I'm going to make sure that your Teslas become number one or something, something along those lines. And now he has to make these measures. But at the end of the day, most people in this country can't even afford a Tesla. So it doesn't matter.
Not in this economy.
That's what I'm saying. So it
Especially
doesn't.
now after these tariffs, they're gonna jump up sky high even more.
That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter. We don't have to say out loud, nobody buy a Tesla. All we got to do is just not get one. So from
Mhm.
now on, because I feel like we're going into a territory where it's like, if you speak out on things, you will be punished, which is fine. But we just have to not speak out on things.
Mhm.
But we'll
It's
just,
not
but we'll
fine.
still,
That's
no,
called
no,
our-
no,
that's our
no,
First
listen to what I'm
Amendment.
saying. Not
Yeah.
publicly.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if
No,
you
for
want to
sure. If you wanna
boycott
be
Target or
safe.
something,
Yeah.
we're not going to say, everybody boycott Target. We're just going to not go.
Mhm.
And we'll come up with a code or something like, hey, y'all already know what to do. That's it. That could mean
They're
2
tweeting
million
nowadays.
things.
They're tweeting like someone just do it, and we all know what they mean.
That's what you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That could mean 20 different things. So at the end of the day, like that's where we're headed. Because I'm not willing to go to jail or have bad things happen to me because they're saying, oh, you're gonna go to jail if you talk about child-free content. Okay, then I'll just live my life with no kids. And when people wonder, does she have any kids? I'm not going to say anything. You're just going to see that there's no, I will film my life from top to bottom and you'll see there's no kids. Either way, my message will get across without me ever saying a fucking word. So if that's where we're headed, you know, but we can boycott. I'll tell you this, I'm never buying a Tesla under no circumstances. And if I ever have to drive one, like the only way I can see myself driving a Tesla is if there were no other gas cars. There is no other
by
no
that point, we would have
options.
other EVs for you to choose from.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But they're like, they got
to
rid
be
of
the
all
last
gas
car in the world.
Exactly. That's the only way. So I'm not tripping. They can't make me. They can't say, no, take your $100,000 and go buy a Tesla. No, I don't want that. I want a GMC.
Yeah, you'd have to pay me.
Like,
right?
Like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want a Hyundai. I don't want a Hyundai. But I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, you can't force nobody to do that.
I'm just not going to get a Tesla because I value my life and they rate so low.
That's what I'm
saying.
That's another thing. I don't like the idea of an electric car in general. Like I don't have any interest in an electric car. I don't want to have to charge my car up.
Yeah.
Like what?
There's not enough lithium in the world to replace all the cars.
That's what I'm
electric
saying.
Cars anyway.
Exactly.
That
we also have
do
limited
us
gas,
any good.
limited minerals.
Yeah.
I would rather go back to the horse and buggy before I fucking drive a fucking
not the horse.
I'm not even joking.
But there was somebody who came out with like a hydro-powered car and I think he got disappeared.
Yep. Yeah, all the scarcity that we live in is manufactured.
The guy I remember hearing about him. Wait,
yeah.
I think he's a black man too.
You know what? I'm scared for the black lady who says she found some cure for some kind of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
She's a black lady.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why did she do that? Because you're a target.
Yep.
I understand why people do it.
Because in their private shareholder meetings, these healthcare companies ask questions like, is it profitable to cure people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So
and it's not profitable.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
it's more profitable to keep people sick and keep them on drugs to manage the symptoms for the rest of their lives.
Preservatives and poisons that are in our shit.
Yeah.
And we I mean, I know that may sound crazy to some people, but no, we actually know this for a fact. Like,
I know for
Europe does not allow half the shit that we allow in our food as far as like quality standards. Like, legally, some of our food in America can be made out of sawdust. And I'm not joking.
No.
Sawdust.
I know you're not joking. Yeah. That's a fact.
Where I was going with my tea time, though, is that I've been lurking in the conservative subreddit and, you know, their whole stance on this since the election has been like, oh, everyone is saying that we effed around and found out, but no, I'm still glad I voted for Trump. And, you know, everybody raised their hand if you're still happy. But like this latest thread about, you know, people checking in after the stock market crash really cracked me up because
I gotta hear this.
Yeah, I was going to say, let me read y'all some of the comments because the delusion.
I've been listening to these Fox News people who are just rebranding the word inflation and they're literally just defining it. So there's like, we're not having inflation, just trying to gaslight us. Like, this isn't, we're just going to have a period of high prices.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. That's not inflation. Right.
And it's like, well, they're not going to come down.
Yeah.
They will do anything but admit that they were wrong. Like, I just got like anything.
And that's exactly, yes.
Yeah.
So you're about to see this. So the article was U.S. to impose 50% tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum starting tomorrow in response to Ontario's 25% electricity tariff. And the comments in there are like, I really wish Trump was a bit more open in describing what he wants from Canada. What's the end goal here? There's no way it's a 51st state thing. That's just trolling. And why do you want a president who trolls, first of all? Like, that's so weird. And we don't need another liberal state to tip power in Washington. He said it's for border security. Well, they're increasing their border security. And it's not nearly the problem the southern border is. I struggle to see what the end goal is. He's hurting conservatives in Canada who would have had a slam dunk election just a few months ago. He's hurting consumers here. I can't figure this one out. Well, maybe one day. make up
Clown.
their damn mind in Washington what they're going to do and stick with it. I work in the steel industry, and if tariffs are in place, that's fine. But this changing his mind every damn day is getting ridiculous. Like, it's just so funny because they'll go out of their way to say that they like didn't regret voting for Trump, but at the same time, they're like, shit, and a lot of these comments are deleted now. They're deleting their own comments in their own subreddits,
because
which is
they're fucking
hilarious.
around and finding out, and they don't want to
Yes.
admit that they were wrong. I'm telling you, they will do anything but admit.
So did y'all see that Sam Cedar YouTube interview where he was dropping some bombs on there, and then he's like, why would the federal government tax itself? And because the one kid who looks like he should be a barista, I have no idea why he's even in there like talking about politics when you're clearly not qualified. And so he was saying that, like, you know, DEI gave the government a tax break and blah blah blah. He had this
They're
moment
just
where he looked in the
throwing
camera,
random words together. I swear to God.
and they look so smug being this wrong.
Yeah.
And because he's literally pulling up the fact checkers and he's like fact checking them. And when they get proved wrong, they still won't admit that they were wrong. So it's like, you're not even arguing in good faith. So why are you even here? And it's not because the goal is for them to like change their mind. It's just to get their viral moments, first of all. And second of all, it's just because it like, to admit that they were wrong to them, it's like a weakness that they hold on to so much, like their fragile little egos. So
that's so sad.
we'll never see that with 99.9% of the rest of the Trump voters who haven't defected by now or renounced their racist, homophobic ways. So,
oh yeah, I mean, Hitler had support up until the very end of his presidency. Like, I'm serious. He like Putin still has support in the public. So it's not. Some people are just really, really. I don't
gone.
know. I don't want to. Yeah, I was gonna say
they're so far gone. Like they're just in their stupidity echo chambers, and that's all that they're ever gonna be listening to in there. And it's like, how did we get here? Other than like social media, right? But like as a country, though, like because the Republican Party used to be, you know, small government, family values, and then you elect the complete opposite of everything that like the Republican Party used to stand for.
You know what I realized? Because it's like, so we're like, okay, how did we get here, right? Because we all keep asking that question. But the more I think about it, we were always here.
I was gonna say
it was just hidden a little bit better until
racism
a certain
and
person,
misogyny every time. Yeah,
until a certain person got in office
to.
And gave people the permission to not be so covert because they had to hide it. You know, they had to hide behind religion. And I'm God-fearing. I'm a Christian-based company, and we accept everybody. And meanwhile, and now they never did. And now that they don't have to put up the front. We've always been. This country was founded on racism, slavery, and genocide. Like literally, it was founded for. So it makes sense that we're going through this stuff.
Even like besides like the social stuff, though, like some of the labor stuff doesn't even make sense because they were also the party of like strong unions at one point. Believe it or not, Republicans were pro-union at one point. Like especially I think it was either before the Reagan era or during the Reagan era. And because Reagan had made all these promises to the people in these unions before he, you know, ultimately broke it up. A story for another time. But even then from that point, like it doesn't even make sense because the Republicans are the ones who are disassembling all these unions like left and right from like Starbucks.
Well, I think that's
Amazon.
because it used to benefit white people and men a lot more. Like unions used to benefit white people and men. And now that they're benefiting everybody, people don't like that.
And that's what this is what I keep saying to like some white people, some white women in particular, because they're not understanding that basically the system that was set up to keep minorities back is now holding them back because they wanted so badly for us to not have anything that they were willing to go without. And I can't remember who I was watching, but I want to say it might have been Cecilia Renee, or it was public video or something where they were talking about how the country clubs were created to keep people out, Black people.
I think it was Cecilia Regina,
Yeah. And then they started raising the prices. Like, we're going to keep the Black people out, so we're going to make it a price that we know they can't afford. And then it got to a point where now the white people can't even afford it, or whoever else.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we don't understand how this happened. Yeah. And it's like, y'all wanted so badly for us to not have something that now you're in the same boat. And the prices ain't coming down either. So you've priced yourself out of. Same thing with Medicare in this country. It's the same thing. They didn't want us to have free healthcare. Yeah. Which me having free healthcare as a Black woman does not affect anybody else. If I get treated for multiple sclerosis or cancer or whatever, that's not affecting you or your health. So why do you care? But they care so much. And that's why we're in the boat that we're in. But really quickly, Gwen, I don't know if you know who Dr. Umar is. Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
I know you know who he is, Lisa.
Yeah,
right?
I do.
You heard about what his daughter coming out and exposing him as a deadbeat?
Yeah.
Which I wasn't shocked. So yeah, Dr. Umar is this pro-black, we call him an educated pookie because that's pretty much what he is. Like he's, Jesus Christ. There's so many ways to describe him. He's very intelligent, but he doesn't use it for good. He uses it for manipulation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And he's very supposedly pro-black, and he don't believe people should interracial date and all that stuff. But he's also a deadbeat dad, which I wasn't shocked. When I heard about that, I was like, I'm glad it finally came out. And then the way he responded to his daughter, because his daughter's like 22, she comes out and she's saying, I'm just trying to get in contact with my other sister. And my dad ignored me when I reached out to him. My dad is Dr. Umar Johnson, blah, blah, blah. The way he responded to her, he said she had a struggle channel. You're trying to get clout off my name. Imagine a dad saying this to his daughter, which proved to me that he has no relationship with her whatsoever. And he's a deadbeat.
Crazy.
You know,
every man always thinks he's going to pull off the heist of the century with this shit. Like, I swear, they always think they're going to be the first one that's not going to get found out for being a deadbeat dad or what. They never think the consequences of their actions are going to fucking catch up with them because they're not self-aware and they're not looking around. Like, they're not critical thinkers. They're like, yeah, whatever, I'll just ignore that child. And then what? And then what?
The way he responded to her told me everything, though. He's like, you have a struggle channel and you're just trying to get clout off my name. What?
That's crazy.
That's something you tell to somebody that you hate. Somebody that you don't care for at all. Or
and I
whatever.
still think that's true. Yeah.
That's crazy. The way he responded to her was so disgusting because my whole thing is, and it just really what it did was exposed him for who he really was. And don't get me wrong, a lot of us already knew he was not a good person and he was fake. We knew that already. But this thing, in my opinion, really shined a light on who he was. He's just like all the other guys out there. He's no different.
We got to wrap up our tea time, but I don't know if you saw that video about the young woman that met up with him and was like, he was being completely inappropriate with her and like wouldn't listen to her boundaries or whatever. And it's like, this is the man y'all are listening to. Like, I don't know. They always think they're going to be the one to get away with it.
You got to have booty.
Or the mask
you got to have a big booty
slip.
or something like that.
Yeah.
That was she?
He said business before back shots.
Yeah, that's, oh my God. Yeah.
Like, she had a boyfriend the whole time and she told him.
And he knew it. Yeah, he knew it. And I believe every word.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I believe every word.
Absolutely.
How does he still have a platform?
Because he's a black man.
Don't face consequences.
And they're not ever, they don't ever
we did something like that. God forbid, right?
But there's no consequences for him, especially not in the black community. Black women and men were like dragging the daughter, saying she was being messy and she is a struggle channel and she's trying to get clout on his name, like
awful,
literally. And
People
that's the part that's the most
women.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he's probably
no
gonna have
what
a little
happened,
bit of backlash.
It was a woman's fault somehow. If it wasn't his daughter's fault, it was her mother's fault.
It was the mom's fault. Yeah. Definitely. If anything, this might make his platform grow.
Oh yeah,
because that's what happens
because men, men love to support. Yeah,
all these podcasts steeped in controversy have like the highest fan base, like the Whatever podcast, the Gains podcast, what's it called, Fresh and Fit, and all these other ones like and
maybe
we're
doing something
Take
wrong
Rose or something.
No, it just goes to show you that people thrive in chaos and dysfunction. That's just literally what it is.
Absolutely. Like attracts like. And with that, let's get into our very first TVIP member tea time. We got a voice note from one of our TVIP members, and she had a question for us as well as a little shout out. We'll play the question first.
Hiya, I have a question for you. I feel like there's parts of the left, or rather far left, I should say, who are now obstructing radical feminism. I've come across tweets asserting that radical feminists and TERFs are inextricably linked. They're referring to radical feminists as misandrists, and they're giving credibility to that term now. And they're saying that radical feminists are all white feminists and that we all hate trans women. And these people want to put out a very watered-down version of feminism, or what you would call choice feminism. they're not willing to think critically about many things, like they only see one side of it. For example, they're saying that some women benefit from sex work, and so we should not even challenge the people above them, namely men who really benefit from it. And in many situations where sex work can take advantage of vulnerable women, they just kind of skip around and downplay that issue. The same people are now also saying that women avoiding relationships with men is the opposite extreme of incels. So just wondering what you think about this.
There's so much to unpack there.
There really is. But I just want to kick this off by saying that the reason men have bro code and we don't, and women don't have nice things, is exactly this. Like, this is why. Because men can be very binary on we support each other, and that's the bottom line. We can agree to disagree. We can all still stick together as long as we unite basically against women or for each other or whatever. And I think that it's very easy for us as women because we do tend to think in more complex terms. We are a lot more aware of things going on than men. Men just have the privilege to ignore a lot of shit that's going on in the world. I get it. I get the need to like try to nail people down on things. But if you really, as a woman, if you really want to play gotcha with other women as far as like where they stand on feminism or where they, calling them radical feminists or calling them white feminists because of, certain beliefs that they have, this is why feminism has been such a big undertaking. And it's good that we're unpacking a lot of this stuff, but I think for the time being, especially considering that we no longer have rights to our bodies, considering that the word female, feminine, feminism, all of that is being removed from government funding and documents and everything like that. We're about to be left with nothing. I think it's time. Yes. And I think it's time to pack some of that shit back up. Okay. We'll unpack a lot of this stuff when we cross some sort of finish line. Because right now, we've been moving backwards for the past like 10 years minimum. Yeah. And I understand that people want to like get into the nitty gritty and stuff, but I have trouble with that because I've seen it eat communities from the inside. I've seen it, become hair splitting to the point where the community is rotted from the inside. And all we're really doing as women is like clapping back and trying to gotcha other women. And I just don't think that's helpful.
It's not helpful. It's actually going to do the exact opposite of what we're trying to accomplish at a rapid speed. Yes. Because we can't stick together as women. So it's like whatever y'all think we don't have or what we're losing is going to quadruple very fast, especially under this administration, the way things are going. So I think the takeaway is for women to stand together as much as we can. Now, that doesn't mean that every woman is going to be your best friend or you have to support everything every woman is doing or anything. If on the inside you don't believe in certain things that women are doing, that is fine. But I think it's very important to stay on code in the public sphere, if that makes sense. So like if I say I don't really want to see women doing sex work, for an example, but I'm not going to degrade her. I'm not going to be disrespectful. She's still a human. And I'm damn sure not finna do it on social media for men to see. Do you get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So like that's the most important thing that we really, because you're not going to get any cool points or brownie points from men. Because I know a lot of y'all are doing that because y'all are pick me. I'm not saying the lady who, I'm not saying her who asked the question.
Yes, at no point are we talking about.
But a lot of women out there are pick me's and they tear down other women because they think it makes them a better woman or they think it's going to make men choose them or whatever. And the only thing you're doing when you do that is setting women back. You're pushing us back. You're setting us back 50 years. That's all you're doing.
You're holding women to standards that men would never hold each other to.
Absolutely.
And that's why they have nice things and we don't.
And you're also creating a shitty future for your daughters if you have them as well by doing that. So please stop. At least whatever thoughts you're having, keep it to yourself if it's not going to help. If you don't like it, like I said, it's fine. But keep it to
like
yourself.
Sovereign said, get on code. Get on code or we're not going anywhere. I liken this to like a train analogy. Like we're all standing on the platform And some of us are like, I can't even be in the same train car as you because of some like hair splitting issue. Like, okay, well then I guess we're not going to go anywhere. I guess we'll all just keep standing on the platform and the train will just go without us. Because
And the
what
train is
this?
going towards freedom, by the way. The
Mhm.
train is going to
By the way,
a realm
Towards
of freedom.
liberation.
And so we
Yes.
should not be giving a damn. We should all be trying to escape and get on the
Mhm.
plane to freedom. So it doesn't
Mhm.
matter who dresses a certain way or who has the X amount of baby daddies or who's dating and going. Well,
Exactly.
nobody gives
Right.
nobody cares. The goal is let us all be on one accord enough to get on this train and get the hell out of here. That is the
Mhm.
best way to describe that. That's what we need to be doing. We can sort all the other stuff out later, like Lisa said.
And policing women is inherently patriarchal and misogynistic. Let's just
It
remember
is.
that too. And women policing each
yeah.
other is not going to
Yeah.
get us anywhere. It's going to rot our community from the inside. And I'm really, sad to say that we've already had to deal with this in our communities. We started for the podcast. I've had to deal with this on my platform, and it's very discouraging and frankly radicalizing.
As somebody who made their entire platform on Twitter, and this is before Elon bought it, by the way. I've had this Twitter for like, God knows, like 4 or 5 years now, since a little before the pandemic. And what you find on Twitter, like you cannot take that at face value. Like just
Really
deconstruct
nothing
that
on
a little
there.
bit.
Yeah.
And it's honestly like majority of it is either like robots or before that, because like the dead internet theory, if you ever had a chance to look that up, 100%,
Yes.
like that's full of, and they're getting harder to detect. Like it used to be, you saw the name on there and then like a bunch of numbers, and then it's like 1 follower and 0 following, and it's just like them leaving a bunch of comments. That's a bot. You could spot it that way. Now what they've started to do is like steal pictures from like Google Images or like Shutterstock and put that as their profile pic.
Yeah.
And they've added bios and they've added like little things to make them appear human. And unless you've like kind of been trained to spot how a robot interacts with their programming on the social media platforms, and like it's getting increasingly harder to spot. And so I'm not saying that like that's 100% what you're seeing on Twitter these days, but it's a good amount nowadays.
Yeah.
And all it's meant to do is just cause this like polarization and this division among any group that's been able to kind of come together on certain issues to try to nitpick and pull it apart. And so far the only groups that I've seen that have been excluded from that are men's groups. Groups that have majority like men's rights things, like the MGTOW and like all
That's
these
so
other
true.
things that have opposed women. Like I don't ever see those comments unless it's women, saying the obvious, which you're just barking at a wall and saving energy on that.
Yeah.
I recommend not interacting with those
Yes, please.
that sphere at all. But it's just a lot of what you're seeing on Twitter is just it's not real. And I'm sorry. And even though I've made my platform on this, log off.
Yeah.
It's just it's not good for your
If
mental
you're
health.
if you're getting to that point. And I also just want to say, like, we on this podcast don't agree on every single thing. Like, and we do so in a way that like it doesn't matter. We can still have this podcast. We can still discuss the important issues. There's some things that I would personally call splitting hairs because they don't affect, very much of the population. And they're things that either way, we're not going to be able to deal with until women are liberated.
Yep,
So it's like
that's
splitting
true.
hairs. And we're not always in 100% agreement on everything. And I hope that puts y'all at ease, actually, to know that we as women, our opinions do vary so much. We're complex beings, and that's good. And I think we should use that for our strength, not to our detriment, not to tear each other down at all. We had actually another note from Vrishni that we'd like to play. And this is more of a shout out, but here we go.
Hey guys, this is Vrishni, and I just wanted to reach out and extend a great big hello to everyone over at the Audaci-Tea, Lisa, Sovereign, Gwen. So the Sovereign woman, who I'm a huge, huge fan of, is the whole reason why I'm here, because I would watch her videos on TikTok religiously, and then she advertised this podcast, so I just had to come check it out. And so that's how I discovered all these other amazing creators. What I love about the Sovereign woman is that she doesn't ever hold back on saying what she really thinks. She crosses those lines that you're not supposed to cross, and that's what I love about her. She's unapologetically radical. Her takes on any and every issue are just spot on and so well thought out and introspective. And it kind of comes effortlessly to her. She's like the big sister that we all wish we had. And I wish I knew women like her in my day-to-day life, and all of you guys actually. but such women are hard to come by. Most of the women who I tend to meet locally, like on the apps and Facebook groups that I use, they tend to be these kind of, I guess you could say, pick-me types, or at the very least, they're these kind of women whose takes on everything are just so predictable and basic. And try talking to them about any women's issues, all they'll have to say is like, not all men, or the men I know are not like that. That's as far as you'll get with them in terms of the depth of your conversations.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
that's their whole wavelength, and they don't
Mhm.
really possess the capacity for more advanced conversations. Unless you're willing to dumb yourself down to their level all the time, those connections just won't last. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to say that listening to you guys talk makes me feel less alone in the world as a woman. So thank you for all that you do, each and every one of you at the Audaci-Tea. And what I also love about the Audaci-Tea, especially as a woman of color myself, is how you've created a space that's not just radical, but also quite inclusive. So it's not just a white woman space, like a lot of feminist spaces online tend to be. And you've made sure that everyone has a voice, Black women, brown women, East Asian women, and just everyone. So thank you guys, and peace out.
Oh,
My God, that has to
Thank
be
That
you
is
like
so
the
so
touching.
much,
Thank
best.
you.
Rishni.
That's like the best. It's comments like that. Thank you very much for that. Isn't it comments like that that y'all read in your comment sections that make you want to keep doing it?
Yes.
Yes,
Because sometimes women
absolutely.
can be frustrating, just like she was saying, like you can't get far with
Yeah.
certain types of women. They're just, it's not all men, and that's the end of it. She's
Mhm.
so
There's a
correct.
brick wall.
It's 10 brick walls some days.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Mm.
I definitely have my moments where I'm like, y'all are really starting to get on my nerves.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so when I come across comments, like that voice memo was everything because it fuels us, doesn't it?
Yes.
To want to
Yes.
Yeah.
to keep going. And so I definitely appreciate that a lot more than you'll
Yes.
ever know.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Rishni.
Vishni.
You're not alone because
Yes.
there's so many of us
Because
that are
we'll
like,
be
what
here.
the hell?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, women
Yeah.
can be
And
frustrating
we feel
sometimes.
you. We feel you
Yeah.
on that. And it's just a testament to how well the brainwashing works. And this is why we say that it's all men and stuff like that, because it's a lot of women too. So like it's good brainwash. It works. So, you know, it's I know it's not a lot of us that see it, but hopefully it'll be more eventually one day.
That's
if
the
we
goal.
just keep going.
That's the goal, that there's a certain percentage of us that get it, that
Mhm.
that percentage, it doesn't have to be 100%, but it has to be enough to where we can make a shift.
Yeah,
that
the
makes
tipping
sense.
point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One day we'll reach that tipping point and then it's over. Over for the patriarchy.
Completely agree.
All right. Well, we'll be right back after this break to talk about why you should never build a man up. All right, so let's talk about why you should never fall for a man's quote unquote potential or do anything like build a man up. And when we talk about that, it's important to know that we're not talking about like normal, healthy, emotional connection where you hype each other up mutually, you know, maybe even build each other up mutually. But a lot of women do this thing where they fall for a man and his quote unquote potential, and they end up building the man from scratch only for him to do what?
Turn around and leave for the woman who didn't help him do anything. Ding, ding, ding. No, just fine.
And I love
No,
that.
it's true.
No. I love that you said that last part because men always want to be seen as self-made. And that's important for women to know and to remember. They always want to be seen as self-made. And so when you do that, you just have to understand that you are doing all of this work for another woman to benefit. Like you will most likely not benefit from the work that you're putting in, from this man's bills that you're paying, that you're, you know, spotting him a rent while he's in between jobs and all that, getting him up on his feet, filling out work applications for him and all that. He is going to resent you for that in the long run because society tells men that they need to be stoic and successful and self-made. So if he does reach that point with your help, you will be the sore thumb that's sticking out that he's not going to want to give credit to.
You're going to be a
Every time.
reminder of the days
His
he struggled.
failures. Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And so he'll come to resent you for that. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. Like, and I hate to say that, like, you know, I'm using movies as a reference, but it's so true because it's such a common trope. Like, this happens. I'm going to use this movie as an example. Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh,
He
yes.
had
Mhm.
that,
Great
I
example.
think her name was like Teresa, and she had like brunette hair.
Yeah.
And she was the one who actually pushed him to be a
Yes.
stockbroker. And then when he finally got good at it, that's when he got Margot Robbie,
Mhm.
the blonde mistress who was like this fun-loving person, and she didn't do any work. Like, she wasn't a
Mhm.
cooker, she wasn't a cleaner, she wasn't a mommy or a maid, she was none of those things. She was just a trophy wife.
Mhm.
Eventually, like, kind of when he was kind of struggling between picking Teresa or Margot Robbie, he looked at Teresa and was just kind of reminded of all the times that he struggled, and like she had just seen too much, and like he was kind of pushing her out slowly but surely, and it hurt him to do it, but he still did it because men are just selfish that way. Like, majority of the time, like 99.9% of the time, a lot of men are just selfish. And so when he has like this like dead weight that he's dragging along, it's just easier for them to rip that Band-Aid off, and that's just what they choose to do. And so they'll go for that mistress character because they haven't seen him struggle, and they're
Yep.
not going to be a
Mhm.
reminder of the times that he struggled.
Yep. See, the reason why a lot of women do this is because they think that men think the way we do. That's
Yes.
the number
Thank
one
you.
mistake
Yes.
that women make. They're like,
Oh my
and
God.
a lot of women feel
Yes.
like, if I do this for him, it's gonna show him that I'm down for him and that I'm
Mhm.
his
That
ride
only
or
works for
die,
female friendships.
and that I'm gonna I'll never leave him when he down and blah blah blah. I'm gonna show him that I'm that woman. And because most men are always in survival mode, their brains doesn't work that way. They're thinking about patriarchy. They're thinking about what other men think of them. They're thinking about their place in society. They're thinking about what they're supposed to accomplish as men. They're supposed to be providers and protectors or whatever. They carry that on their shoulders on a daily basis. Whether they're doing it or not, they still carry that. So they know what their place
Yes.
is in society.
It's that patriarchal
So-
programming.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. So
It beats
if
everything
you
else.
if you cut out the part where he's supposed to work and actually build himself up, or you give him a shortcut by helping him, he's absolutely going to resent you. Men don't think the way we do when it comes to that. Men are going to say, oh, she's helping me get my credit score up, or she's putting a car in my name, or she's doing this and she's making me look good. Okay. I appreciate it, but yeah, I'm going to have to get a woman that, you know, his dream woman.
Yes.
Usually, and I'm not saying every first wife is a starter wife. Like, I don't think Lisa's I don't think Lisa's a starter wife. So I know that's not true for everybody. But a lot of first wives are starter wives, especially if you are building him up. And it's not a mutual thing, because that's the thing.
Yes.
Usually it's not mutual, because oftentimes the man doesn't have anything, which is why the woman feels the need to want to build him up in the first place. So it's usually not mutual. And that's where a lot of women, in my opinion, get messed up at, because they think men think the way we do. But that man, like Gwen was saying, is going to resent you later, because he's going to look at you and you are going to remind him of when he had nothing. He's going to want a woman who looks at him with stars in her eyes. Like, wow, this man is so amazing. He has his stuff together. My mom told me, don't get with a man you gotta build and fix up. Get with a man who's already built. Ooh, look at him. And that's how he wants women to see him. And he knows, whether he feels bad about it deep down or not, he feels as though you are never going to be able to look at him in that way, because he knows that you know that he know that you know he wouldn't be shit without your help. And he won't be able to face you every day. This is the number one reason why they leave the woman who built them up, because it's an ego thing.
Mhm.
And chances are you were never his
Dream
quote
girl.
unquote
Yeah.
dream girl
Yeah.
anyway. And if the way you know this, in my opinion, is if a man is willing to allow you to build him up,
Yes.
that's your way that you know right then and there, you are a placeholder. Because a real man who actually wants to build a future with you, he's really not going to let you do all of that heavy lifting. If anything, it'll be a partnership. But there are certain men that will not let you pay all the bills and put him through college. And if he's letting you do way more than he's doing and it's not equal, you are a placeholder.
If he's not putting back into you what you're putting into him, it's not
There it
equal,
is.
and you're
You're
being used. Like, and I'm not saying that, you know, it's all your fault, or like you should have seen this coming, but it just comes a point where it's like, do you love yourself enough to say that, like, you know, this amount of labor that you've put into the relationship is being returned, and that having the strength to leave, I know, is so hard, but it's it's one of those things where it's like if the roles were reversed
Yes.
and
A man
Mhm.
would not
like
do
a
that
man
for
would
you.
not stay. No.
They're
No.
not giving
So-
up their career. They're not giving up a job. They're not giving up nothing
Their
for
body
you.
to have your children.
Yeah,
They're not doing
Hell
any
no.
of that.
They're not.
They're not putting themselves at risk in any way. You should know that a woman is the safest investment for a man, whereas it's the opposite on the
Yeah.
other side.
Absolutely.
Every time you even lay down with a man, it's a little bit of a risk that you take unless you have, every procedure in place, and even still it
Yep.
can, the body can do crazy things. I've known a woman who had her tubes tied and still got pregnant with twins, and she almost lay down on some train tracks, and that my mom had to
Damn.
talk her off of. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Was it like through IVF situation or just like
No, she was actually very fertile. So she was like,
Okay.
I actually want to be done. Like, she also suffered like a lot of suicidal thoughts, and like just while being pregnant, like pregnancy was just not good for her mentally. So she
Yeah.
had like 2 kids, and she was like, okay, I'm going to get the snip. And they supposedly tied her tubes. And then, I mean, this was in Ukraine. So
They probably never did.
Yeah.
And so she ended up getting pregnant again. And she was like, I'm going to leave this earth. And my mom had to talk her off of
That's so terrible.
literal train tracks. So yeah, it's not fun for women. Even when you think like you have certain protections in place, like you are still risking it, and it is a risk, and it's just not the same for men. They can walk away from that anytime
And they usually
that they
do.
want to. And they
And they
usually
usually
do.
do.
Exactly. So yeah, the other side of this that I wanted to talk about and get y'all's viewpoints on too is that this is a very transactional thing, right, for men. But also, I think it's the way that a lot of men's moms set them up. We
Mhm.
talk about boy moms on here sometimes. And I just think that men are entitled. Like, even when you confront them about, okay, so you want a woman that brings something to the table. The something is always money, by the way. The something is always money. They are
That's
never
hilarious.
willing to say that women sacrificing their careers, their bodies, everything like that to
No, that's just the bare minimum for them.
exactly.
Yeah.
So they're
literally.
like, so what else do you bring to the table? And then when the woman goes and says, okay, money, but I'm also going to be working full time, so you need to contribute. Like, do you know how to cook, clean, raise a child, whatever? Then the men are like, no. That's not for men. That's not manly. Like, you wouldn't respect me if I did that. Like, that's not, I'm supposed to protect and provide. And they just don't even see that as cognitive dissonance. Like, they don't even understand how that's different.
Sorry. Protect and provide has become an ick for me.
Yes.
Like hearing that, like I'm so tired of those two
So
words.
true.
Like I use it all the time for context, but just know that I'm cringing on the inside when I say men are supposed to provide and protect, right? Like I'm literally, I'm so tired. I'm tired. So I'm not towards you, but I'm just saying, am I the only one that like fucking?
Well, because they
don't actually do it.
That first of all, and they view it as an equal exchange for like, they're like, no, but I'm in my masculine. So even if you're, working and having kids and cooking and cleaning and doing all that, that's fine because that's woman stuff. I still do the man stuff,
One man thing.
So then I go to work, yes, and then I'm also a protector. And it's like, so you think that the amount, like women spend like 4 hours a day after work doing everything else, dinner, cooking, cleaning, all that. So you think my 4 hours a day worth of labor is worth the like hypothetical scenario in which somebody breaks into our house and you fight them off with a baseball bat or something? Like, you think that all of that is worth it? That's crazy. I'd rather just get my own baseball bat or my own Glock or something. Like, are you serious?
And God forbid she did a double. So now she's going to come home and that's going to equal 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
If she did 16 hours and she comes home and still has to do laundry, still has to get the kid, because there are men who will watch their wives or girlfriends or whoever do a double shift, come home and still do all the household labor and sit there and let her do it without helping.
Those men hate
AKA
you.
married single mothers. That's what that means,
They
in case y'all didn't know.
Hate your guts if
Like
they do that.
literally hate you. Like they literally married you for
And they won't say it
convenience.
out loud.
They'll
They'll
never
just-
admit it. Unless,
No.
Unless they're in the heat of the moment. Some of them will say, if they got them another backup woman and they don't care about you anymore, they might. But for the most part, they'll never tell you that because they're using you. They need your free labor. So they're not going to go anywhere. They're just going to complain and sit there and watch you struggle. Oh my God. If you are a married single mother, which is a woman who's married on paper, but you're still doing either all or the majority of the labor at home, the child rearing and all of that.
But
you're
just a married single mother. Assistant.
Yeah. And if you're a married single mother, your husband don't like you.
Yeah.
He married you for convenience. And it shows in his actions by not helping you out and thinking laundry and cooking is women's stuff and it's not masculine. Like if they have that mindset, like you have a dud, like at that point, you don't have a husband. You have an additional child.
Same goes for men who are like, oh, I like a strong woman. You know, my mom was really strong. She carried our entire family on her back. She worked 3 jobs. You know, that's the bare minimum I expect from a woman.
It never gets old.
Stop, it really doesn't. Oh my God.
Oh my God. I feel like the men hate their moms too.
I was gonna say, he doesn't think that she was really doing
human.
anything.
Yeah, you're not
she
really
made it
human
look
to them.
easy. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you see your mom struggle and work her fingers to the bone, as they used to say, why would you want that for your wife? Easy. You want that for her because you don't see her as human. She's a wife appliance. She's a wife slave. That's her job. You married her for convenience. That's why. There's literally no other way to describe that. No man who loves you wants to see you struggling, wants to see you crying, wants to see you hurt, depressed. There's men who get mad at the woman because she's like going through postpartum depression. Like, what?
The nerve.
Are you not even trying to figure out what's wrong with her and try to help? You're just complaining. You go to the bar and drink and whatever else and complain. My wife, my old lady is getting on my nerves and she's bitching and moaning all day. Like she's literally depressed. And you literally are the reason why she's depressed. You do something about it.
There's a common denominator here.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? Oh my God. I get irritated thinking about that. The stuff women go through when they're like, this is why one of the 3,000 reasons why I am never having kids.
Oh, absolutely. There's just no way to divide that labor equally. And even when people talk about, oh, we used to have a village and stuff like that, it was all other women. Who were the men in that village? There was never men in the village. So the unpaid labor has always fallen on women, and that's why it's invisible, you know? But it is visible because whenever we try to remove it, the men fucking freak out. They're like, oh, women are not traditional anymore and women are not marriage material anymore. No, women are just not willing to be used as firewood to stoke the flames of your fucking success, brother. That's what they're not willing to do anymore. They just don't want to be free firewood for you. And y'all
they
get
don't want to
so
light themselves
mad.
on fire to keep you warm.
Exactly. Exactly.
That is my favorite fucking thing in life. Oh my God, that is the best. Listen, when I tell you that is the best analogy or the best way to describe that, women making themselves free firewood to keep men warm. Like
it's
when
so
you are a
true.
wife appliance or you are a glorified baby mama or whatever, that is literally what you're doing.
You'll
have
know it when
turned
you see it
yourself
too.
into firewood
Yes.
for that man's
Yes.
benefit. And you're literally burning into ash. Literally, as the days go by, you're being depleted.
If you're sinking and he's thriving, that's your situation.
Literally.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And can we also talk about how men don't even wait? Like, they don't even wait to upgrade from the woman that quote unquote built them up. As soon as they see one little flash in the pan of their own success, and we see this all the time, but the most recent example is obviously the Ariana Grande, Ethan Slater whole situation where his wife literally had just given birth and moved to their filming location for him. She moved. She uprooted her whole life.
She had preeclampsia.
She had preeclampsia.
Oh my
she was
God.
like bedridden, you know, and the moment her husband was given a chance. And this is why I refuse to blame the other woman in that situation.
Yep.
Because I promise you it would have been some other woman. It would have been somebody else. It would have been, it doesn't fucking matter. The woman in the situation doesn't matter. It's, does your husband love you? If the answer is yes, then he's not going to do that to you. He's not even going to give another woman a reason to think that she has a chance with him. You know, women, like, and I understand that people want to like place blame on that and stuff like that, but the biggest chunk of the blame still goes to the man. Like, even if we want to split it up, it'd be like in my opinion, 99% still on the man, because
I
you just
100%
couldn't
agree.
wait to fucking upgrade. You couldn't wait. You were looking at your wife like, oh, look at her, you know, postpartum body. Look at her this, look at her that. Oh, this girl at work is paying attention to me and like, she's cute. This is how they think. They just cannot wait to upgrade. And this happens so often. And men, you know, they'll even be with Chris Pratt and Anna Faris, right?
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
exact thing happened. She built him up. She's the reason he has a fucking career. She
John
is the
Cena.
reason.
Yeah.
Huh?
John Cena and his ex-wife. Whenever
Ooh.
they first got together.
Kevin Hart.
Mhm.
Kevin
Oh
Hart.
yeah, and Kevin Hart. But I don't know if y'all know this about John Cena. Actually,
I don't.
FDS did an episode about this. But John Cena.
Shout out to
made his
FDS. Keep an eye out for a very special episode coming up in the very near future.
did a little bit of a leak there, but
Yes.
leaked that future tidbit there. But when they did this episode, it was like what 2018 or so, 2019. He made his ex-wife sign this like 75-page contract that stated, you know, all these things that would have to happen if they broke up. And after he had asked her to move in with him and at his place, his home, and basically he's like, oh, I just wanted to treat you like a guest. You're a guest in this house.
Oh my God.
Not like a whole ass human being
That's so
that lives with
unhinged.
me and wants to spend the rest of my life or our lives together. Like, it's just, no, you are an object. I'm going to make you sign this contract that's going to protect me and all my assets and all everything I worked for. And his ex-wife was also a pro wrestler too, if I'm not mistaken. So like she had her own money too.
Oh my God.
And it's not like she was trying to like gold dig and come after his shit. And it's like, yes, John Cena had more because as we know, men in wrestling, like they just have the same reason we know women in sports don't have as much money as men in sports.
Right.
But yeah, and also this was before WWE had like a ton of PR for women, but I digress. So she still had her own money. So it's not like she was trying to be a gold digger as he likes to try to portray this as, because like every article that I've read since then, it just kind of put her in this negative light of where she was just this, you know, home wrecking gold digger type that just wanted to get John Cena for his money and like baby trap him and all this other BS. And so, man, I really feel for her. But I just remember that FDS episode and like just being shook about that because John Cena had already had this like great PR about him where he was seen as like this genuinely good figure. It was like charitable.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he had done like a lot of Make-A-Wish visits and things like that. So
John Mulaney too, one of the most one of the most famous examples of this, where he was, as soon as he had the chance to upgrade, he threw everything out the window that he ever, you know, quote unquote stood for. I don't know.
I'm a huge advocate for prenups. If you have a lot to lose in the event of a divorce, whether you are a man or a woman, I am for prenups and I understand why people do it. However, if you are a woman and you're dating a John Cena or somebody similar that's making you sign a 75-page document or whatever, just know, and I hate to say this, but the man is going to plan on leaving you one day. He's not looking at you as a long-term thing, because if he cared about you in that prenup that he would still have because he's smart, it would be something like, if we were to separate, I'll make sure you have X amount of millions.
Exactly.
Or, you know, he'll make sure that there's something in there for you. Yeah.
Yes.
And so if you go through and sign that, just do your best to get everything you need to get in that marriage quickly as you can. Like if you want to start a business or if you want to, you know, open up a boutique or something, I don't know, whatever it is, you do it within that first year. Do it, because by the time he wants to trade you in for a younger woman or whoever, you would have already gotten what you needed to get out of that marriage, because the divorce is inevitable at that point.
Also keep in mind, ladies, that if men are coming to you with a prenup or whatever, go tit for fucking tat. So make all of your quote unquote invisible labor very visible, right? And men get real pissed off when you do this, so he's not gonna like it. But there was a woman on Reddit a while back who, her and her fiance were like 50-50 and everything, and then they decided to have a kid. And like they weren't even legally married or whatever, but they had paid for everything 50-50, I think, except for like her engagement ring. He paid for that. They paid for the wedding 50-50, like everything. And when she came to him and she said, okay, well, since I'm about to have this baby and we've been doing everything 50-50, I want a contract. Because you can't do 50-50 of the pregnancy. You can't do 50-50 of the delivery. You're not going to do 50-50 of the breastfeeding.
Right.
And I'm also afraid that a lot of the cleaning, everything else is going to fall on me. I also need you to compensate me at least $50K, which I think she was lowballing for the amount of work that I'm going to miss and stuff like that. And that
Queen.
shit that warmed my heart because I was like, finally, women are catching on because the prenup can go both ways. Also, because women's labor has been put a value on. So a surrogate costs a minimum of like $100,000. $180,000 is the average. Okay, most men cannot afford to put that in a fucking prenup. So either put in the prenup that you're not going to have any kids or that you're going to have that kind of money for per child. Okay,
Drop in your account before you give birth.
Facts.
In your account before
that
you
he
give
doesn't
birth.
have access to, not the joint account.
Yes, exactly. Your account.
Period.
Your account, because that's your labor and nobody else is willing to pay you for that. So if he wants to get out of it scot-free, you should be able to get out of it scot-free and not with like 2 children or whatever that you now have to feed because he just has the privilege to walk away. Also include in there, you know, cleaning services, cooking, whatever. And unless y'all are truly splitting that 50-50, then I think the woman that I'm talking about with the Reddit post, she had it in there that, you know, if things don't end up being split 50-50, then she had the option to like hire the help out instead of doing it herself on his dime. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's one of the things that women should definitely think about, including in any kind of prenup. But I'm just saying you gotta go tit for tat because these men are delusional. They're gonna be like, oh, you can't have any of my money, any of my businesses, whatever afterwards. Oh, but he can have your children. Those children are gonna have his last name, even though they came out of your body, even though you made them, you breastfed them, you raised them. They're gonna have his last name.
Absolutely not. But
That's
unless you're getting something out of the deal for
delusional.
doing so.
Yes. And the only kind of man worth being with is a man who's going to do that automatically. You know, I hear a lot about, there's this girl I also follow on TikTok and she talks about her parents and her dad's like a multimillionaire and he has her mom on every single business, on every single car, every single investment, venture, whatever, listed as a 50% beneficiary and owner of that business because that was the deal they made. And he's like, her supporting me through that, through my career is the reason I'm able to have any of these things. Her raising the children that I wanted to have is the reason that I can have any of those things. And so therefore, go for it. Exactly. And a lot of men don't get that because they're users and they're transactional. And kind of like I said earlier, a lot of men's mothers set them up for this by the way that they model these, you know, expectations. A couple episodes back, I referred to a certain video where this girl laid it out the way that mothers treat their sons preferentially to their daughters. And men see that modeled. They see it modeled that whenever they ask their mom, hey, mom, what's for dinner? The mom is like, oh, I don't know, baby. What do you want? You know, what can I make you? And when their sister asks, you know, mom, what's for dinner? It's like, why are you asking me? Why didn't you make dinner for everybody? You know, you're useless around here. Da, da, da.
It's common in East Asian households, at least as far as I know.
Yeah, it's common. I feel like it's common everywhere, really. And especially where women are marginalized and are dependent on men, it is just the kind of mindset that gets passed down. Like you have to be a good homemaker and the man has to feel well set up to go out there and quote unquote provide. But you do all the work of like supporting him so that he can come home and provide and shave you off a little chunk of you know, income or what, not even income, like so that you can have money to buy groceries for your children. You still have to plan a budget. You still have to clip coupons, whatever. But at least he'll come home and throw you a little bone. Like, come on.
And for those women who are thinking, okay, this is too radical. If you start demanding things from men, they probably just won't marry you. So I don't know if I can do that. Listen.
Exactly.
That is
Yeah.
not the right person. If he decides that he's not going to want to look out for you in the event of this or the event of that, he's not somebody, you're dodging a bullet, really.
Exactly. That's what we're trying to tell you.
Yeah, so
Like,
that's the first
It is
thing.
going to be radical. It's going to weed out 90+%
it literally
of men.
is.
Yeah.
And you'll be saving yourself in the long run.
Mhm.
And it'll make you uncomfortable, especially if you've been raised with these values of like, you know, traditional patriarchy
Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
making
It's gonna
yourself
feel weird.
subservient.
Yeah.
It's
It's
gonna
gonna
feel
feel very
completely. Well, it's gonna be like a 180,
Mm-hmm.
but
But
it'll
it has to be
benefit you in the
done.
long run.
Yes, it will benefit you. It has to be done because you're either going to weed them out and save yourself heartache, or you're going to protect yourself in the event that that man decides randomly out of nowhere, I don't want to be with you anymore. This marriage is over, or he starts cheating on you, or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
Because that man, and they very often do, walk away when
Yes.
things are boring or when things are inconvenient for them. And you're going to be stuck raising those kids by yourself or trying to make ends meet by yourself anyway, 9 times out of 10. So you might as well go ahead and get the most bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to, you can't care so much about their feelings, because I promise you when it comes down to it, they're not going to give 2 shits about yours. If they don't like you anymore, if they're not attracted to you anymore, they're not going to think you deserve any of their money. They're like, it's over. Like, I don't owe you anything. And they feel that way about their own children too. So
yes.
Please protect yourself.
Date like a man.
Into this. Absolutely. Think the way they think, because I'm telling you, whatever energy they're giving you, get that energy back. It is what it is. If they're being minimal with whatever, then you be minimal. If they're going all out, then you can go all out. But at the end of the day, you have to protect the livelihood of yourself and your children if you have them. And that's really what it boils down to. And you got to do what you got to do. You got to have those uncomfortable prenup conversations, or pay me for carrying this baby conversation, or whatever it is. You have to. If you love yourself, because a lot of women claim they love themselves, but I'd be like, how much do you love yourself? You got to have these uncomfortable conversations with yourself first, and then with that man, if you're planning on letting him use you as an incubator, or as a bang maid, or as a wife slave, or whatever y'all are planning. So yeah, don't look at it like this is too much. You'll be saving, like Lisa said, you're gonna weed out like 98% of
No, seriously.
of men anyways.
And it works like a charm, because
and that's the best thing for you.
Yeah, because men really are. You have to understand that men created this system to benefit disproportionately from women, to hold the power, because they know that otherwise we hold the power.
Yep.
The reason that they had to hoard resources and oppress us in the first place is because we have been historically able to either say no to them, or to be able to do the kind of things that they do now, right? Like just move on to another man, or, you know, hey, if this man's not like meeting my needs, I don't need to. Like, the reason, you know, when with hunter-gatherer societies, there wasn't this strict monogamous sort of like setup. It was more hypergamous, and it was like the women were mating with whoever they wanted to mate with. And guess who didn't like that? It was the men. That's why we live in this society today. And, you know, even though a lot of men don't see it like that right now, it still doesn't prevent the system from working as intended and taking the majority of power away from women. And, you know, the first wealth transfer really was from women to men. And it was, you know, just men inventing a thing called money so that they could oppress women. Matriarchal societies don't work in that way. They never have. Matriarchal societies are an inclusive circle. They're not a hierarchy. The reason that men invented
communists,
hierarchy.
aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, they just don't thrive on a lack mindset. They thrive on an abundance mindset. I mean, and this actually works in real life too. I just heard a lady talking about this free grocery store in Portland that she and like her little commune run. And somebody's like, well, what's to stop people from coming in and taking like one of everything, or just taking everything? And she's
That's
like,
the point.
she's like, we don't stop them. They can come in and take one of everything. They can come in and take everything. But what they find is, you know, they come back week after week and things are restocked. So they learn to sort of like get out of that lack mindset, and they just take what they need. But, you know, when you put people into that mindset, yes, at first they're going to be like, oh yeah, like let me, you know, But eventually they're going to be like, no, it's okay. Like there's enough for everybody. And that's how women have always thought. You know, women have always been able to make something out of nothing. And we know that. It's the men that struggle with that. You know, like
I agree.
what do they say? Like you give a woman a house and she makes it a home, you know, you give a woman a sperm and she makes a baby or whatever. It's like, well, why don't men do that? Why don't men hold themselves to a higher standard? Why can't you give a man a home and he make it anything but a fucking pigsty? Like, why can't you give a man a baby and he doesn't, you know, disown or abuse it or, you know, just is completely uninvolved or, you know, lets his own insecurities get in the way of him loving that child the way that the child should be loved? Like, why don't men hold themselves to a higher standard? We have to do everything.
Because they don't have to. The society has made it comfortable for them to just be pieces of shit if they choose to be. Like that's literally
and that's what they
boils
thrive
down to.
on.
Yeah.
That's what they thrive on. And until we as women, you know, can really hold that bargaining power, and especially like now that we do have the right to work, it's even more offensive to me, you know, that women are using their hard-earned money to build up men. Because
oh my God, exactly.
the society, they created the society to benefit them. How are you? Do you know what I mean? Like, to me, that is the most obvious lie and the most like clear way that you're being taken advantage of is if a man is really like letting you help him in the patriarchy.
Yes,
in
a
the
system that was set up for them
a
to
system that was set up for you
to succeed. Absolutely.
In these economic
fail
times and
upwards.
these wage gap times.
Yeah, and not even to succeed, to fail upwards. Like men don't even get fired, you know, for so many things.
Yeah.
It's like you just cannot tell me that in a world built for men, a man needs you, a woman, to give up your hard-earned money for his success. That man just doesn't like you. And he is willing to be a leech. Like we're underestimating men's ability to be a fucking leech and to just look out for number one. Because that's what they're always going to do.
One of the things that they use to bait women into helping them is men got it hard out here. It's so hard to be a man. It's like, no, the system is set up for you to either succeed or fail upwards, like Lisa said. So there's no excuse. Those men who feel like it's hard, in my opinion, and I'm not saying that life is not hard in general for most people, because it is, but I'm saying the ones who over exaggerate, like it's so hard out here and I have to go out there and slay the dragons and blah, blah, blah. When I come home, I need you to be my peace and whatever.
Yeah.
Those men are the types of men who really don't want to do the hard work. Like they don't want to, you know, they'll be the types of people that don't want to do what it takes to be successful, but hate on the people who was willing to do what it takes to be successful, right? So they have that mindset where it's like, I don't actually want to work a 40-hour or 50-hour or whatever week. I don't actually want to have to work hard to impress a woman. I'd rather just go get a prostitute. I don't want to have to actually cook dinner for myself. I'll just go back to my mom's house. Those men have that type of mindset in general, because the ones who really understand that this system is set up for them, they're taking the steps to, you know, make it easier for themselves, if that makes sense. Like they know, okay, I got to do this, this, and that, and the third, and then I'll be okay. The men that we're talking about don't even want to do the first steps. They don't even want to. They just want everything easy. They want the low-hanging fruit when it comes to women. They don't want to have to put in more time or effort into anything. And for me, that's a dead giveaway. If they're complaining about it's so hard, usually what they're talking about also is getting women. So they're like, oh, but all the women don't want me because I only make $50,000 a year. You don't need to date the type of woman that needs you to make $400,000 a year. There's plenty of women who will be okay with you making 50 because she makes 50. But they go after women that don't want them. So when they say life is hard, I guarantee you they're talking about money and women. That is what they're talking about. They ain't talking about nothing else. So
and self-inflicted.
Don't date. And it's so self-inflicted. If they start talking about it's so hard out here for a pimp and all this other stuff, just know that that's probably not a good match.
Yeah, they don't know the first.
Most likely has an incel or like red pill mindset.
No, seriously.
When you dig deep into it.
Yeah, and most men don't know the first thing about struggle because they're not willing to struggle. And the reason I say that is because so many of them just wait for a woman to come along and fix everything. I've read
Yes.
so many stories on Reddit where women are like, oh, rate my boyfriend's place. And it's a literal, I can't even describe it. I mean, it's just a literal pit. Like,
Mattress on the
woman-
floor.
yeah, this woman posted, she was like,
No
my boyfriend's
decorations.
moving in with me. Here's his old place. And it was literally a pull-out couch in a garage that had a single pillow on it. Like, I'm not joking, like a pillow and like a little throw blanket. And then the rest of it was just like horrific, like rusty, just absolutely, like, he was sharing the space with like critters, I promise you. Like, he had like little friends, you know, little cockroaches and mice, I swear to God, that came out every night because that place that looked like a hazard. And I'm like, you're letting him move in with you? What do you think he's going to contribute to your life?
Nothing.
What do you think he's going to contribute? Nothing.
He's just gonna bring his zoo buddies.
If
Yeah,
anything, he's going
exactly.
to pull you down. He's going to drain the life
He's
out
going to
of
bring
you.
bed bugs into your house.
Mm.
Those are his friends.
That's his will to live.
Yeah.
Listen, y'all,
So he can
ladies.
support his bedbug friends.
Here's the thing.
my
I
God, they're
know
coming
women
with
are
him for sure.
compassionate. We're compassionate. We're empathetic. We're like, oh, I know I can help him. I can get him. Please let
don't.
that go. Because if a
Yeah,
man, if a
just
grown
don't.
ass man don't have the basic necessities, he don't give a fuck about nothing. And when I tell you, and that includes you, like, he doesn't even care about his own
Time's up.
well-being. Like, please don't try to be Miss Fix It or whatever. What
Barbara the Builder.
Barbara the Builder.
Yeah.
Please. Shout out to Shira 7.
Shout out.
Please do not, because you're just going to drain the shit out of yourself. That's it. And then you're not going to get anything in return. Men like that will cheat on you and they'll do everything to make you feel even worse and make you feel even more dumb for helping him in the first place. I promise you. Don't do it. I know it's hard to not have compassion for people, but that man is not the man for you. That just tell yourself, if he neglects his own needs, he's absolutely going to neglect mine. That's how you got to tell yourself, and keep it pushing.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like we can wrap it up right there. I was just going to say, and it's always the type of men that will be like, the only people that are loved unconditionally in this world
Oh my God.
are women and
Babies
children
and-
and dogs. And
Yeah,
it's like,
when babies and dogs.
That's exactly what it should be. What you mean? What's
well,
the problem?
first of all,
Yes, and that's them projecting because like those are the only things that they'll love
Yep.
unconditionally are babies and dogs.
They
For
won't even
women,
love
it's
babies.
like our
They won't
moms.
even.
It's like
They won't
Yeah.
even love babies and dogs unconditionally.
I think it's projection in
Sure.
the sense that they're the only ones who are actually loved unconditionally. Women have to prove their worth every single day.
I know.
Like, they
Facts.
wouldn't even fuck with a woman that would be
Facts.
like, oh, I don't cook, I don't clean, I'm not gonna have your babies, like, I'm gonna chase
Literally.
my own career. They'd be like, you're not wife material.
You're not wifey material.
Yeah.
Literally. Like, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, women are by no means loved unconditionally, ladies. Remember that.
Heck no.
Especially by men. And just
Youth,
never, yeah.
beauty, ability to procreate. All women are going to lose all three of those things.
We need to tag that
essentially.
video.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation for this week is your video about
Oh,
that.
God, I got to find that. Yeah, I'll find it.
Mine is Shira Seven's video about Barbara
the Builder.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll put both in. All right. Well, we'll be right back to dig into our mailbag.
Yay.
Let's do it. All right, let's dig into our mailbag. We have a letter that says, "What's up, empowered women? My FYP started sending me Lisa and Sovereign's content a while back, and I'm so with you all on what you speak on. I love your content and the podcast. I'm a 50-year-old white single woman who lives alone in southern Maine, and I have a career as a hair colorist." You sound amazing. Sound like you're living the dream. I heard you touch on this a bit recently, Lisa, and I would love a more in-depth dive on the deep programming that comes from the romance trope. Women are conditioned to seek this out endlessly from a crazy young age, and some of us do it for decades, which usually leads to emotional suffering and psychological damage. The level of self-abuse we are willing to inflict on ourselves over getting a man, getting married, etc. is wild. At the root of this is programming. In social media, movies, TV shows, music, these awful reality TV train wrecks that I'm convinced lower our IQs when watched. As an
Agree.
older woman who has scrubbed this from my life, I can attest to the incredible peace, fulfillment, and liberation it can bring. My career, hobbies, lifestyle, and family are all I need to live my best life. And a large part of this is doing the serious deprogramming of taking apart the hetero romance bullshit. It was not fun going up against decades of conditioning, but so worth it for freedom on the other side. I'm hoping that with you, younger women, you can appeal to the younger generations with your perspectives.
Mhm.
I would love to hear all of your shares on the harm the romance trope can bring to women and how, of course, it only benefits men. Much love to you all and what you do. Fuck these rom-coms. Fuck the patriarchy.
Let me just say
it.
this.
Say it,
Period. Let me just
queen.
say this. Like, women, we are raised on like Disney and rom-coms and all these like fantasies. Men are raised on porn.
Oh.
That's what men are watching. Like while we're
You're
like
calling-
daydreaming about the fairy
Yes.
princess, you know, fantasies with the happy ever after and shit, men are watching porn. And that
Mhm.
starts at like age 12, as far as I know.
Earlier.
And
Yeah.
nowadays it's probably even earlier, because when these studies came out that I read, they would say something like porn is just 2 clicks away.
Mhm.
And that was like
Yeah, I
back
think
in
it's
2010, 2008 or so. But now it's like 2025, and that shit is probably 1 click away.
Mhm.
And ad blocker can't even save you anymore. Like, it used to be you could have these like H&R blocking these channels. Now they're like kind of finding ways to skirt around that by putting in
Absolutely.
advertisements, and you can't some ad blockers cannot always block advertisements. So
Even if
that's
you
all I'm gonna say
if
on
you
that.
image search the word woman with the safe search off, you're gonna find porn thumbnails.
Or
So
when you type any name ever into the
Yeah.
Reddit search bar.
yeah. Oh my God. Even typing any subreddit into the Reddit search bar, the first suggestions you're gonna get are gonna be of porn
NSFW.
subreddits. Yeah. Like no matter what you try to type in, like faux moi or like pop culture chat or like women something don't even go there, you know? But yes, that is a very important point, Gwen, because men are not watching the same things as us. And I want to say that I escaped a lot of that conditioning, I think, by being very neurodivergent as a child and kind of picking up on that. Like I knew that a lot of the things that society wanted women to do seemed to me uncomfortable and very self-sacrificial. And I hated dolls. I hated Disney princess movies. I refused to watch any movies that didn't have like, you know, at least animals in them.
Yeah.
The first Disney princess movie I ever watched was Shrek. And even then I was like, so instead of getting a hot prince, she turned into an ogre?
My God.
I don't like that. I did not
I never
like
liked
that.
that
I agree.
movie.
Yeah, and that's actually my first recommendation to women when they talk about, you know, I want to decenter men and decenter the patriarchy, is to go on a cold turkey. No romance, like the media, like cut it out. No
Yeah.
perfect match, no Love is Blind, you know, no rom-coms, nobody wants this. Like even the modern ones that come out, they still involve women compromising
Yep.
for themselves in some way, shape, or form, because it's almost like you really can't even, a lot of people can't picture decentering men well enough to write a story about it. And even when they do, the studio gets involved and says, no.
Yep.
We're going to have to change it a little bit. We're going to have to, that's all on purpose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To program women,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like Gwen and Lisa was saying earlier, while young girls, young ladies are fantasizing about this wonderful prince coming to save her and make sweet, passionate
Mhm.
love to me, the boys are thinking about handcuffing
Back
you
shots.
to, literally back shots, and like how to chain you up in the basement and invite their friends over to watch. You know what I
Good
mean?
God.
Like that's what. So you have to look at it from that point of view. Like it's not gonna match up. Like what
Mhm.
girls are taught and what boys are taught, the way girls are socialized, the way boys are socialized is the exact opposite of each other. And that's why we have one of the reasons why we have so many problems with dating and marriage and all that stuff to begin with, because it's like it's like bringing two people in to do two different jobs at the same time for one goal. Like it's not going to work. It's not going to match up the same way. That's why we have so many problems with dating, is because there's two different ideals on opposite ends of the spectrum. So it's like, I don't know. I just really wish women just focus on themselves. And if a decent man comes along without you having to sacrifice anything and give up anything, and he's supportive of you, and he's like, hey, I don't care. I'll support you and I'll help you. And he's not, you know what I mean? That's the only way. If you got to sacrifice.
Yes. And you don't make it your entire identity that you're
No.
with a man, and like, you don't act like, because a lot of women like to ask me, well, what if your husband's one of those guys? What if you get divorced? I'm like,
You just
gonna
get
get
divorced.
divorced. It'll continue being the least interesting thing
It
about
won't be
me.
the end of the world.
Right.
Like, I'll just be divorced and I'll be okay.
And you'll have more things to talk about, if anything.
Exactly.
Because I was telling some women maybe a month ago, I was like, if and when or whatever me and my boyfriend break up, probably the first thing I'm going to do is come to YouTube and tell y'all about it. Like, what missed a red flag, whatever. I'll be the first one to come say exactly what happened, what mistake I made, where I went wrong. Did we grow apart? Whatever it is. So
that's
that'll just be more
decenter
content.
Men. Yes,
literally.
That's how you because and somebody said it in my comments. They were like, nobody cares that men literally will go their entire marriage decentering their wife. Like, men decenter women in marriage all the time. They put their careers first. They put their buddies first. Everything like that. Yeah. So like, why would it be any different for women? Like, it's especially confusing to me when women act like it's different for women. Like, I don't know, what do you say to a divorced man? Do you shame him? Do you act like it's his fault that he picked wrong or something? Is it the end of the world? No, it's not the end of the fucking world. Get divorced. I've always been such a strong proponent of get a divorce. I'm the first. I'll tell anybody to get a divorce, and I'll get a divorce for any reason.
Dump him.
Same already.
Here. Hashtag we're dump him feminists.
Some men will start decentering you at the actual wedding, like that man did who said, I look good, but you look all right. Or smashing cake in your face after you specifically said not to.
The smashing cake thing.
Like, they literally start from ground zero a lot of the times. So they will absolutely decenter you. And that's why it's important for you to center yourself. That way, if anything, you decentering a man is going to make him more focused on you.
Exactly.
Or
because they don't like that.
Yeah.
They don't
or if he decides to decenter you, it doesn't matter because you've already been centering yourself this whole time anyway. So a lot of us, I think we probably, all three of us, will be perfectly okay if something happened in our relationship ended. We're not going to be suicidal. We're not going to jump off a cliff. It's like, we'll be fine. We'll probably be sad and we'll miss them, but we'll get on with our lives because we don't center them in the first place. Huh?
I said, if I get dumped, I'm just moving to Korea. Like, I
know that's right.
Right.
I'll teach English.
It like doesn't even matter. Yeah. And I also want to say that like a lot of women find this out. I don't want to say the hard way, but like after years of marriage, they'll be like, I love my husband and everything, but after all the work that I put into this and he still is like, I wish I could live in a house across town.
Yes.
And he could have his own house across town.
Yeah.
And it's like, a lot of us were meant for something more like that. I think like every woman is raised to believe that she is 100% a lover girl. And I had like the very opposite experience. Like, I really grew up believing I was not a lover girl, and I totally am. And I think that for a lot of women, it's like the opposite. They think that they're a lover girl and they're not. Even when the man like starts acting right or whatever, you're like, you know what? It's not really it anyway. Like, I don't need to spend that much time with you because you're not that interesting. You don't have that much to offer, like, etc. If I could just have my own house where you were not allowed to leave behind a trail of mess everywhere you go, like, that would be better and easier for me. And I just want young women to keep that in mind, is that a lot of older women will tell you, the women that know will tell you, either don't get married, or if you do, have really strong boundaries, or if you do, live separately, or if you have a prenup or whatever. They're not telling other young women to go all in on marriage, because marriage is not that great to a man. It's not that great.
Right.
Unless it is, and in which case, have your marriage, but like, we don't project that onto other women. Like, the women that have found a good man would never tell other women to date men indiscriminately or marry somebody indiscriminately because they might just turn out to be a good man. In fact, they know what they have, and they tell other women, like, it's so rare. It's so rare.
A needle in 10 haystacks.
Yeah, exactly. And I could never in good faith recommend that other young women go out there and put themselves at that kind of risk.
Absolutely. Same here.
To wrap it up, I just want women to know that like the system is just set up against us 100%, from like when we're toddlers and we're just learning how to walk to when we're like teenagers, young adults. And like, so by the time we enter the dating phase, we enter at such a disadvantage compared to men who were raised on reality for them anyways, which is porn. So if anything, if you need that reminder, just know men are watching porn at the same time you were watching Disney. So not even men, boys. When they were little boys, they were watching porn while you were watching Star Wars and shit. So like, just think about that.
Yep.
Amen. All right, we've got some polls to read. I think we already said our recommendations earlier, but in case you didn't catch it, we are going to put some videos in the description, one by Sovereign and one by Shira7. But the polls this week is actually very thematic here. We have, what's the biggest reason you think marriage has been centered by women in society? And we have, the options were for the perceived high value of male validation, for financial and social stability, as a romantic ideal of happily ever after, or because of tradition and cultural expectations. And the winner on our Patreon poll was because of tradition and cultural expectations. And the winner on our Spotify poll was romantic ideals. I also want to say we may have worded that question, not very helpfully, because marriage has not so much been centered by women as it has by men and society. I think that women, if we're really going to talk about women's relationship to marriage, women have always been kind of forced into it. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, ladies? Do you agree with the poll results? What do we think?
Yeah, I agree with D too, because a lot of my upbringing, me personally, was brought on like these traditional values of marriage and things like that. But my parents did it a little different in a way that like, yes, we want you to get married. And yes, like that is something that you should, keep in mind. But here are some other things to keep in mind. Like there is like a chain of events or like steps that need to happen first before you get married. So like your first thing is to graduate high school. Second thing is to graduate college. Third thing is to have a career. And the fourth thing is to finally, walk down the aisle. So
that's
with
fantastic.
those things, like it'll set you up for a little bit more success and just like putting it all the emphasis on the marriage itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, marriage should be deprioritized, as far as when women do it, and like, especially parents who try to fear monger you about no man is going to want you. I just listened to a video. I don't know if y'all follow her on TikTok, Texas Garden Fairy, MJ. And she was saying that, she's 29 now and her dating prospects are the best they've ever been. They're better than when she was 21, 23, 25. She's like, no, these men actually want to treat me right. Like I have way more options. The men are financially stable. They're over their shenanigans and stuff like that. And so
they're at the different stage of their life.
Exactly. And so, yeah, your options are really not as limited as you think. Yeah. And if they are, it's not because of your fault as a woman. It's because men are not stepping up to the plate. And so, yeah, all great reasons to decenter marriage in general, especially now that we don't need to depend on or rely on men for that financial stability necessarily.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. And
I'm wondering how long it's gonna last.
My God, I'm actually terrified about that.
Same.
Yeah. Because
I think about that often.
Yeah, things are moving quickly and they're not trying to hide their misogyny this time, but we'll have to get more into that next time on the pod.
We shall.
And please make sure that you tune in next week because we have a very, very special guest. We have Savannah from the OG FDS coming to chat with us. The topic is TBD, but we're very excited to have her on regardless. If you don't know what FDS is, it stands for Female Dating Strategy, and it was the original women's like empowerment subreddit on Reddit that didn't really hold back, and they're no longer welcome on Reddit because of that. And it's been a real journey. So I'm really excited to talk to her and to dig into, what really happened behind the scenes, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Please make sure you tune in, and make sure you tune in next week because, y'all can't see us right now, but next week you will be able to. We can all see each other. We're doing our little video test run. So we're hopefully bringing y'all that as soon as next week. Hey!
We're excited. Yay.
Just so that y'all know, when we switch to video, you're not, losing out on anything. You can still continue listening to the podcast wherever you currently listen. The podcast in and of itself is not going to change. We're just giving people the option of viewing us if you prefer. The same exact audio will be both on YouTube and podcast platforms. We're not changing anything at all. The video version of the show will only be available in 2 places, on YouTube and on Patreon for TVIPs, who also get the show early and free. And we're adding a video component to the show because it's how most of our audience, especially as far as me and Sovereign go, that's how they consume our content. And it just makes sense to make this available with video. And, y'all have been asking, and so we're happy to deliver. I usually say we'll talk to y'all next week, but hopefully for some of y'all, we'll actually see you next week.
We'll see you. Absolutely.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.